Following breaking news, the Los Angeles mayor's office and the California governor's office both confirm actor and director Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle have died in a, quote, tragic event.
We're following breaking news out of Los Angeles. Officials from the mayor's office and the California governor's office have confirmed that legendary actor and director Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle Reiner, have died in what authorities describe as a tragic event. Their times of death were recorded just minutes apart on a quiet Sunday afternoon. But what investigators discovered inside Rob Reiner's Brentwood mansion tells us something unsettling. This tragedy didn't begin with violence. Before sirens pierced the air on December 14th, the house wasn't a crime scene. It was a sanctuary, a place of Sunday dinners, familiar routines, and a family desperately holding on to normal life. While much of the media is focused on the bloodshed, today we're looking deeper. We're examining the slow collapse behind closed doors. From the lack of forced entry to the ordinary objects left behind, the evidence suggests this was not just a murder, but the final result of long-standing medical and familial failure. For decades, the Reiner estate symbolized a very specific version of American success. Hidden behind tall hedges and iron gates, it was designed to keep the chaos of Hollywood out. Inside, Rob and Michelle built something rare: privacy, stability, and peace. Their Sundays followed a familiar rhythm. Coffee brewing, newspapers rustling, a television humming softly in the background, scripts stacked neatly on desks, framed photos of grandchildren on the mantle. The quiet comfort of a couple married for more than 35 years. On the morning of the tragedy, nothing seemed out of place. The California sun cast long shadows across the lawn. Neighbors went about their day. There were no warning signs, no storm clouds gathering. Rob Reiner likely woke up thinking about the future, perhaps a new project or a cause close to his heart. Michelle moved through the house with ease, knowing every creak in the floorboards. This was their final moment of normalcy, when the future still felt secure. But in hindsight, the house was no longer a sanctuary. The walls meant to keep danger out were actually trapping it inside. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was pressure building. This tragedy didn't begin with shouting or chaos. It began with prolonged silence. The silence of a problem that had been managed, but never truly solved. The danger wasn't an outsider, it was someone already inside the home. As the hours passed, the estate quietly transformed from a home into a trap. The security systems, wealth, and isolation that once provided safety became their greatest vulnerability. By Sunday afternoon, everything collapsed, not from an external attack, but from within. The safest place in the world became the most dangerous, because the threat had a key to the front door. To the public, Nick Reiner is now just a mugshot. But to Rob and Michelle, he was their son, the baby they brought home to that Brentwood house 32 years earlier. Born into a Hollywood dynasty, Nick had every opportunity. But the man walking those halls in later years was no longer the boy they raised. He was a stranger wearing their son's face. His decline wasn't sudden. It was a slow spiral involving addiction and severe, untreated mental illness. Friends describe a young man drifting away, not rebelling, but disappearing into darkness. Reports point to schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. The label matters less than the reality: a son who could be loving one moment and unrecognizable the next. For Rob and Michelle, the battle wasn't public. It was fought quietly at home, in fearful silences and tense dinners. But they never gave up on him. While many wealthy families distanced themselves, the Reiners leaned in. Rob believed love could save his son. They spent millions on elite doctors, luxury clinics, and experimental treatments. They weren't just parents. They were prisoners of hope. Each new facility brought optimism. Each relapse brought deeper heartbreak. Eventually, a terrifying question emerged. Was the help actually making things worse? Investigators found pill bottles, discharge papers, and a never-ending cycle of treatment. Did endless comfort prevent Nick from ever hitting the rock bottom that might have saved him? As years passed, Nick stopped being just a burden. He became a threat, and the system trusted to fix him failed catastrophically. For the ultra-wealthy, rehab often looks like a vacation. Ocean views, private chefs, massages, and horses. These weren't hospitals. They were five-star resorts with pharmacies attached. Instead of confronting his illness, Nick was coddled, his entitlement reinforced. The industry didn't sell a cure, it sold comfort. As long as checks cleared, there was no urgency to fix the problem. Relapse became part of the business model. Experts now call it a catastrophic medical failure. Symptoms were medicated. The disease was ignored. Nick was sent home labeled improved, but more unstable than ever. Rob Reiner didn't just lose money. He unknowingly financed the system that helped create the monster that turned on him. Then came December 14th. According to forensic records, 40 years of family history ended in about 60 seconds. Rob and Michelle's times of death were recorded just 1 minute apart. In the first minute, calm turned to terror. There was no argument, no warning. The danger detonated instantly. Rob likely fell first, with no time to react. The second minute is the most haunting. Michelle likely realized what was happening. A mother who spent her life protecting everyone now faced the complete failure of love to save her child. And then, silence. In the time it takes to check a phone, 2 lives were gone. The house still stood. Birds still sang. But inside, everything had collapsed. The estate was no longer a home. It was a mausoleum. This wasn't a fight. It was the execution of the past by the present. When sirens arrived, the tragedy didn't end. It moved to the courtroom. Nick Reiner now faces 2 counts of first-degree murder, premeditation, a deadly weapon. But his defense is preparing an insanity argument rooted in severe mental illness. This is where justice collides with medicine. To the public, Nick is a monster. To the law, he may be a man lost to psychosis. The real victims left behind are Jake and Romy Reiner. In one afternoon, they lost their parents and their past. Forced to choose between supporting a sick brother or condemning the man who destroyed their family, there are no right answers. Only pain. This story isn't just about violence. It's about systemic failure. About mental health, it is ignored until it explodes. About love that wasn't enough. Rob and Michelle Reiner didn't fail. They loved fiercely. But love is not a cure for biology. Let's remember Rob Reiner not for the final minute of his life, but for the decades of laughter and stories he gave us. If this story made you think differently about family or mental health, share your thoughts below. Let this be a space for understanding, not judgment. This is Forever Fame TV, where we tell the stories behind the headlines. As this case moves forward, it forces us to face an uncomfortable truth that many families quietly live with but rarely talk about. Mental illness does not care about wealth, fame, or legacy. It exists behind gated mansions just as easily as it does in small apartments. The Reiner family had access to every possible resource, yet they were still powerless against a disease that our systems continue to misunderstand. What makes this tragedy especially haunting is not only what happened, but how preventable it feels in hindsight. The warning signs were there for years. A repeating cycle of treatment, relapse, hope, and heartbreak played out again and again. Still, there was no final safety net. No moment when someone stepped in and said, "This has gone too far." The legal battle ahead will dominate headlines. Experts will argue over diagnoses. Lawyers will debate intent versus illness. The public will be split between anger and sympathy. But none of that will bring Rob and Michelle back. No courtroom decision can undo what was lost inside that home. This case also forces a larger conversation society often avoids. High-end mental health care for the wealthy frequently prioritizes comfort over accountability. Pain is softened, consequences are delayed and real intervention is replaced with luxury experiences that feel therapeutic but change very little. For families watching this story, especially parents caring for adult children with severe mental illness, the fear is deeply personal. How do you protect someone you love without enabling the behavior that could destroy them? Where does compassion end and boundaries begin? These are questions with no easy answers, and the Reiner family lived inside that dilemma for decades. Rob Reiner spent his life telling stories about humanity, resilience, and love. Tragically, his own story now reveals the limits of love when faced with untreated mental disease. That does not make his efforts foolish. It makes them human. Like many parents, he believed staying close was safer than pushing away. Michelle Reiner was the quiet strength holding the family together. Her loss represents the unseen emotional labor so many partners carry while living under constant strain. For Jake and Romy Reiner, the future will be long and isolating. Their grief is tangled with guilt, anger, and impossible choices. This tragedy will follow them forever. The Reiner story is more than a headline. It is a warning about ignored warning signs, broken systems, and the dangerous belief that money alone can fix what requires hard, uncomfortable intervention. This story ends in loss, but its lesson should not. If it sparks even one honest conversation about mental health and boundaries, then Rob and Michelle's legacy becomes a call to do better.